welcome to episode 27 of the Woldenburn Podcast. I have been trying so hard to film another podcast episode. It's just been one thing or another has gotten in the way. I started filming one the other day, and then little Munchkin Man here immediately woke up from his nap and was like, no. I think he senses when I'm trying to film a podcast, but I really wanted to get one out before Thanksgiving, and so I've got him down here on the floor by me, so we'll see how this works. Anyway, back up a little bit. Introductions. I'm Emily. If you're new here, I am coming to you from Tennessee in the United States, where I live with my husband Micah and our little baby boy, who is just past 3 months old now, and getting big and healthy and strong. Yes. But who is also very demanding and just loves to be snuggled and held and taken care of all the time. Hi. You're okay. Yeah. We'll see how this goes. I may have to interrupt myself, but I have some knitting projects to talk with you about, a little bit of crochet. We'll just briefly touch on sewing. I'm not really going to go into it. Then I have a couple of knitting plans that I want to talk about, just a little bit about some Black Friday shopping, some books I've been reading recently, and then just at the end a little bit of life update stuff. So let's dive into it before this little man gets angry. Yeah. First off, no finished objects this time. I do have one that's very, very close to being done. It is my Stockinette cardigan that I was test knitting it for Emily of the Blue Mouse Knits here on YouTube. Absolutely love her patterns. I have completely finished first sleeve, seamed it all up and everything. I have finished the second sleeve, and I just today started seaming the last side seam. So once that's done, my cardigan will be done. I'll just have to weave in the ends, and I'm so excited. It is so snuggly and cozy, and I cannot wait to have it, to be able to wear it. It's going to be so nice. So really quick, a few details about it. I knit this on a US size 10.5 needle for the main portion of it, and then I use a US size 8, which I believe is a 5mm. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is, for all of the ribbing edges. And the yarn that I used, I don't have any ball bands. I think I might have thrown them all away. But the yarn that I used is from Hobby Lobby. It's their soft and sleek low pill fiber yarn, 100% acrylic in the colorway Spice, and I love it. I know it's just a cheap, inexpensive yarn, but it's so soft and cozy. Hold on. Okay, come here for a minute. Little stinker child. And I bought 4 balls of it, and this is all that I have left, so I am super happy about that. Hey, I'm talking here. I'm super happy about it because I don't have just a huge amount of yarn left. It's just one little ball. I think I have enough that if I wanted to, I could add the pockets on the front. I think I mentioned that, but I might not even have enough for that. So I'm very pleased with that. It's nice to know that if I go and just get 4 balls of this low pill, soft and sleek fiber yarn, I'll be able to get a cardigan out of it. Like, that is so cool. Yeah, what do you think, little man? I'll try and see if he'll be happy on my lap. See how this works. So, that cardigan is just about done. Hopefully by next time it will be a finished object. I've had the second sleeve done for a while, but I just haven't felt like getting to the seaming portion of it because I've been kind of, things have been a little bit, not stressful or crazy or anything like that. It's just more so busy, and baby Tam has been quite demanding. And so in the evenings and stuff I get done and I'm so tired, and he's been doing this thing where he gets really sleepy and he just doesn't want to have anything to do with my husband. He wants me to hold him and snuggle him and feed him and get him soothed and put to sleep, and then he wants to be held for a while he's like getting properly asleep, and then I can put him down. And usually by the time I'm done with all of that, I just want something very simple and mindless and easy to work on, like stockinette or something that's not too demanding, and I just have not felt like finishing up the seaming. But I got it started today, which is always the hard part. Getting it started, for whatever reason, just that's the block. So hopefully very, very soon this will be done. And I'm, like I said, very excited about it. I think it's going to be an incredibly wearable cardigan. It's just very simple. It's going to be snuggly and cozy, and I'm so excited. The next project I have to talk about is a little bit of a sad one. So I believe I showed you and mentioned last time that I was in the process of knitting up a Oslo hat by Petite Knit for my dad, and I did a ton of progress on it. My mom and dad came to visit for a really quick trip, just less than 12 hours, I think, honestly. They just kind of stopped by on their way through back home, and so I was trying to get this done before they came, and I got a ton of work done on it, and then a couple days beforehand I just realized it's too big. So here's where it's at. The yarn is kind of dark with this lighting. It's a little bit harder to see. But here's that. There's that. I just started on the decreases. I kind of had a feeling for a while that it was not going to be the right size, but my husband was being super encouraging, and he was just like, okay, well, just work on it a little bit more and see what you can do. Just make sure that it's not actually okay. So I did a bunch more work on it, and I just knew it's huge, absolutely massive. So frustrated with this. So I went down, I think, 2 needle sizes. I think I'm using a 2.75 millimeter or a 3 millimeter. I can't remember. It's one of those ones that doesn't have a US size equivalent. It's kind of one of those in-between sizes. Maybe it's like a 2.5, a US 2.5. I don't know exactly. So I went down a couple needle sizes, and I'm using 2 strands of fingering weight yarn held together like it called for in the pattern. And I assumed, I was like, okay, my dad is a dude. He's a guy, so we're gonna go for the largest size in the pattern, because it has I think it's a small, medium, large, extra large. I should have gone with the medium. I almost did, but I was like, no, he's a guy. He's probably got a slightly bigger head than I do. We'll just go with this. The measurements don't seem that crazy. And I don't know if it's just the pattern, if it's the style. This thing is massive. It is so big. Even on my husband's head, and he's got not a huge head, but his head is bigger than mine. And even on him, it was really, really loose. And so I was just like, yeah, I'm not gonna finish this. It is way too big. So I have to tear the entire thing out. And I'm going to start again, because I realized what I would like to do is I would like to make up a little Christmas box for my mom and dad, and there's another project, I'll talk about it in a minute, in my knitting plans, but I would like to make this in the size medium, so I'm going to go down 2 sizes, because this is so big. And I'd like to make this back up in this yarn, and then make my mom something and send them a little Christmas box. I think that would be very, very nice. So, a little bit of a sad one. It is definitely getting frogged. I do want to try the pattern again and see, and if it flops a second time. Because here's the thing, I did measure my gauge, because I didn't do a gauge swatch beforehand, but I went down a couple needle sizes because I know that I am a looser knitter. I didn't know this until like this year, or I never really paid attention to it. And I am a looser knitter, so I went down a couple needle sizes and everything was going good. And when it started looking so massive, I went and measured my gauge, and my gauge is right. So I don't know if it's just the style of hat or what, but it's huge. Absolutely massive. So if you're thinking about knitting this, double check the head size of the recipient. Because that was the thing too, is like my dad doesn't live locally, so I can't be like, here, hold still, let me measure your head. So I just kind of guessed, and I ended up guessing wrong, but that's okay. It happens sometimes. And like I said, I'm just going to frog it back and redo it, and it'll be totally fine. Ha-do-do-do. You're okay. Okay. What do we talk about next, little man? Should we talk about your blanket? Doop, doop, doop. Actually, let's talk about a sock project really quickly. Yeah. I'm just going to touch on it. I actually found a little bit of time to work on it. Hey, I'm trying to film here. To work on the sock that I'm knitting for my husband. It is a basic 2x2 ribbed sock with the bottom being plain stockinette. I'm doing this on US size 1 2.25mm double pointed needles, and I'm knitting it out of the Drops Fable yarn, which I bought online. Let me see, here we go. Drops Fable in the color 200. It's just a really nice basic gray. And one of the things, I was going to try and get this pair of socks done before my husband's birthday, which is Thanksgiving this year. His birthday is on Thanksgiving Day. But I decided that that was sort of a ridiculous time limit to suddenly put on myself with a baby to take care of. So I've decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to finish at least this one and at least one more pair of socks before Christmas. Since he likes shorty socks, they're fairly easy to do and fairly quick. And I'm going to try and get those done for him before Christmas so that I can have a couple pairs of socks to give him for Christmas. And the other one, I think I'm going to do another pair of Doda socks. I forgot to grab the ones that I've made for him, so I'll pop a picture up here. But I think I'm going to make another pair like that, but either do it in black with the gray Doda symbol, which I think is the one I'm leaning towards. I think that would look so cool. Or do it the other way around, gray with the black Doda symbol on it. I think that would look so classic. Either way. Hey! You're so noisy! You're so noisy! We may have to pause here in a minute. Yeah? You're okay. So that, I did get to work on it a little bit more. I think when I showed it to you last, I was only up to about here on the front. And I've since done it. I've started the toe decreases. And so I should have this first sock done pretty quickly. Okay, we're going to pause just for a second. Let me see if I can get him calmed down. Okay, I fed him and he's now asleep on my lap. We'll see if that lasts. Sometimes my talking is okay and sometimes my talking disturbs him. But hopefully, since he's right here on my lap, he'll be fine. The next project that I'm going to talk about, I'm actually mid-row on it. I was working on it at church and my hand started acting up like crazy. I tend to have issues with carpal tunnel, and I have noticed that since having a baby, a lot of that's been exacerbated. I had some flare-ups of it during pregnancy because of all of the hormones going crazy, and then with breastfeeding and whatnot, it flares up. And so I was in church and in the middle of knitting, and all of a sudden it just flared up really badly, and my whole arm from my elbow all the way up to my hand was just hurting. So and I just haven't had a chance to get back to it. But I am making really good progress on my granite stitch baby blanket that I am making. This is it's not even really a pattern, it's just a made up pattern, basic. I think it's like 144 stitches, and then it's just a stitch that I liked out of one of my knitting stitch dictionaries, that word. And I am knitting this out of Big Twist Value yarn. This is the label. It's just an 100% acrylic yarn from Joann's in the colorway Dark Teal. And I'm making really good progress on it. I have probably only, I think, like this much left to do on the top portion because I need to finish it up. I think I only have 2 more repeats of the granite stitch, and then I'm going to work, I think, what is this, 4, maybe 8 rows of garter on the end, and then it'll be done, and I'll just need to weave in the ends. So I'm really looking forward to getting this done. It's the time of year, it's quite cold now, so Baby would definitely find it very useful to have it done. So I would really like to get this done before the next podcast as well. So there's that. And I think that's actually all of the knitting projects that I've actively worked on. I did a few rows on my Tenya sweater, but not enough to really show any progress. This was one of those where I'm at the point where I just need to do stockinette, and so I just did a few rows here and there, or a few stitches rather. When it was the evening time and I was just feeling like bleh. So that's all of the knitting projects, but I did start doing a little bit on a couple of crocheted projects. First off, for those of you that have been watching for a while, you may remember that I was working on making a crocheted square blanket, and I made a ton of these squares and I had started seaming them together, and I didn't like how it was looking. So I tore it all out, took apart all of the squares, and I have started single crocheting them all together on the back. That's kind of how it's looking. And I like it much, much better. And it's also so much faster. So this is something that I could see myself getting done in the next, month or so, depending upon when I get a chance to work on it here and there. Because knitting is definitely kind of number one, and then crochet is number two when it comes to yarn related crafts. So knitting will always be the first thing I work on, but sometimes I just feel like, I don't know, I've been a little bit more in the mood for doing some crocheting. It's a different hand movement and everything, so I've got a few of the squares joined together, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. This is all knit out of the Yarn Bee Hobby Lobby. I love this cotton in a couple different colorways. And it's really nice. I do really like this cotton yarn. It's quite soft, but I know it's something that I can just throw in the washer and the dryer and I don't have to worry about it, which is perfect for baby blankets. So I have been doing a little bit of work on this. This was based off of a pattern for a tote bag, actually, which was all of these squares, and then there were these mushrooms that you make separately and stitch onto it. And we'll see. I may get done with it and just feel done with it. Or I might still be willing to crochet and stitch on a few mushrooms here and there. So we'll see. But I did want to share a little bit of an update on that. I haven't talked about it in ages. But it is something that I've wanted to work on and get done. And then the last crochet project, or the last project that I'm going to share today, is here. Let me pull this out. Random scrap of yarn in there. I have finally gotten to work on finishing up this blanket that I made before baby was born. This flannel was in a remnant, the remnant bin at Joann, and I really liked it and thought it would make a really cute little Christmas blanket. So I just hemmed down the edges. You can't really see, that's not focusing. There we go. I just hemmed them down, and then I finally went through, and you can kind of see this here, maybe if it'll focus, and just stitched with a needle some loops so that I can go through and crochet an edging onto it. And I have just started doing the single crochet part, and then I will probably, I'm leaning towards just doing a few rounds of single crochet and just leave it at that, keep it super simple. But it's such a nice touch to add to a blanket. And again, it's another one where it's fun. It's a little bit different than knitting, and it looks so cute. I love this fabric. And then I also have this fabric, this flannel, that I'm going to be doing the same thing with. I just love this so much. Look at this. It's so cute. I'm kind of sad that I didn't get enough of this to make myself a Christmas dress, because that would have been really cute. And I think that it's out, which makes sense. It's out of stock because it's adorable. It's just all these foxes and little sweaters and scarves, and it's so cute. So I'm planning to probably, as you can see, all the edges are raw on this one still, so I just need to fold it over twice and stitch it down, like so. So I'm gonna probably try and do this sometime in the next bit, but sewing has definitely been on the back burner, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, because you can't really do that with a baby in your lap, as he is right now. So yeah, but yeah, I'm really happy to be working on this. It's turning out so lovely, and I can't wait to get it done. It's got all these, like, it's got a moose and foxes and squirrels and bears. It's so cute. So those are 2 baby blanket projects that I am currently working on. Let me get my crochet hook stuck in here. There we go. So I can stick it back in my bag. And that, I think, is pretty much all of the projects that I'm actively working on. I'm trying to kind of keep this a little bit on the shorter side, but I say that every time, and it never really happens. I just start talking about other stuff. But let me stuff this stuff back in here. Let me just check my notes. Yep, okay. So the next thing that I have to talk about is really, really exciting. Let me see. Should have grabbed it before the baby was on my lap. Let me see if I can grab that really quick. Sorry, Nuegen. I have a very exciting acquisition that was actually gifted to me by a lovely, amazing viewer. Let me see here. So about maybe a week or 2 ago now, I was contacted by one of my lovely viewers, Vin of the Knitting Texas podcast. I hope I pronounced your name right, if you're watching. She contacted me and got in touch and said that she had a set of Licca DPN knitting needles. She had been trying to destash, and she wanted to know if I was interested in having them. And of course I was like, absolutely, yes, please. For those of you that have watched a couple of my podcasts here recently, I've been talking about how I've wanted to get some Licca needles, and I was able to get a couple of circular needles when we were in Wisconsin a couple months ago, and that I really loved them, and that I was interested in adding more to my knitting needle collection. And so she got in touch. She said, you know, she would love to destash them to me if I would just pay shipping for them. And of course, I was so excited, so happy, happily paid shipping for it. And I have the most beautiful, stunning knitting needle set that I have ever seen. It is, I just can't. Look at these. I know a lot of knitters are not huge fans of DPNs. I love using DPNs. I don't know, there's just something about the way that they feel in your hands, especially, I mainly use them for knitting socks. Oh, they're so nice. But I have, the set comes all the way from US size 0 all the way up to a US size 5. So it's a 0, what is it? A 0, 1, 2.5, 2.75, and then 3 millimeter. Okay, yeah, that's what it is. So it's a 0, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 4, 5 US sizes. Sorry if that's just kind of confusing, but thank you so much, man. These are amazing. I am just itching to cast on another pair of socks because I don't really want to start midways or knit a second sock in a completely different needle, just in case it messes with my gauge or something. But I am thrilled beyond words to have this in my knitting needle stash. It is stunning and I love it. It just feels so luxurious, and I love this case. It's super nice, and now I have basically a whole full selection of most of the DPN knitting needle sizes that I typically need. There's been a few times where it would have been really nice to have like a US size 3, and I don't have that. I think I only have like the sock knitting needle sizes, and then a US 5 and a US 7, and they're in just the super cheap and expensive metal knitting needles that you can get at any craft store. So this is such a treat. I love it. I will link Ryan's podcast down below, the Knitting the Knitting Texas podcast, or the Knitting Texan podcast. My word. Goodness, I am struggling to speak at the moment. But yeah, I highly recommend you go and check out her podcast. Thank you so, so much. I cannot wait to be able to use these. But none of the projects I'm currently working on uses them, which is really sad. So that is all that I have in the way of acquisitions. I did buy a little bit of fabric. I'm trying to make myself a couple of little t-shirts and things because with a baby who is inclined to spit up a lot, pretty much every single one of my t-shirts only lasts for about one day. I can't really rewear it or anything. And so I'm woefully lacking in the t-shirt department. So I purchased a little bit of fabric from Hobby Lobby to try and expand my t-shirt collection, but I'm not really going to bother sharing that. There's just like a basic black ponte or stretch fabric, and then there's like a teal green and a polka dot. So there's that. Let me check here. Yes. So next, I wanted to talk really quickly about some of my knitting and crocheting plans. So, I mentioned before that I was wanting to reknit the Oslo hat for my dad, and I want to knit the Cargill cowl by Rebecca of the Crafty podcast. I want to knit that. I'll put a picture up here. I want to knit that for my mum. I was thinking about knitting her a shawl, but I don't think I could get that done in time, and I think with going down 2 sizes for this hat, I might have enough of this yarn to knit my mom a matching cowl. She and my dad kind of love to wear coordinating or matching things. It's really cute. They've been married for over 30 years and they're the best. I love them so much. It was absolutely amazing to get to see them. But I think that would be really nice, and I'm going to try and knit the Cargill cowl. Which, by the way, through the end of November is still, Rebecca released it as a charity release, so all of the proceeds from that pattern for the month of November are going to the Fistula organization. So if you haven't checked it out, I think it's just over like $4 US dollars. If you're interested at all in a cowl knitting pattern, I highly recommend you check it out. Rebecca has posted on Instagram a few times. She says that there's been over 3,000 pounds raised for the Fistula organization, which is amazing. I am so, so happy. So I do highly recommend you go and check it out and see if it's something that you would be interested in purchasing, because there's about a week and a half left, I think. And yeah, I just think it's so amazing of Rebecca to do that. So highly recommend you check it out. That's one project I want to work on. The next project that I would like to get cast on pretty quickly here is going to be out of this yarn, which is some of my hand-dyed yarn. I would love to knit I think it's called Ollie's Bear Hat by Hannah of Hannah G Knits. Baby Tam is in need of a little stocking cap, and I think that hat would be adorable. And I love Hannah's patterns. They're so excellently written. And I've been wanting to do that one for some time, but I just haven't gotten around to it. But I have the perfect yarn for it. It's a little brown yarn, so it'll be nice and kind of nutty brown, and it's just a merino nylon blend, so it'll be super soft and cozy. And I would like to get that cast on pretty quickly here. And then the next thing that I would like to do for knitting is I would like to knit a shawl of some sort. I have just been feeling the itch to knit a shawl. And then Amber of A Lovely Yarn released a video talking about, I think it's like 20 something different shawls to knit that are really good for gift knits because they're simple and mindless, and a lot of them have a ton of garter stitch in them, which I love garter stitch. so much. It's just one of my favorite things to knit. And I'm going to link her video down below. It's an excellent video. I highly recommend you go and check it out. It's super inspiring, so it made me want to cast on all of the shawls, which I was already feeling the shawl urge, so I have a few that I would like to do. I might film a little bonus video and talk about some of the shawls that I am kind of thinking seriously about casting on. So there's that. And then the last project that I am hoping to get started pretty soon, I would like to make a crocheted scrappy blanket and use up, I have several odds and ends and different amounts of inexpensive acrylic yarns in my stash, and I had the realization recently here that it would make a perfect crochet blanket. Some of them are scraps from a crocheted blanket that I made. Some of them are scraps from some hats that I made for Christmas a couple of years ago. And I have a few different colors, and I realized that I just kind of want to make a stripy, scrappy, single crocheted blanket. Super basic, super simple crocheted blanket. And I kind of want to get that started really quickly because crochet blankets are so mindless. When you do a very basic single crochet blanket, they're amazing. They're one of the most fun things to make because they're so incredibly mindless. So those are my knitting and crocheting plans that I have. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the Black Friday or Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, etc. This is kind of the big sale time of the year, and I was originally planning to buy a lot more stuff. I was planning to make a purchase off of Lovecrafts and a purchase off of Knit Picks and just buy a bunch of different yarns and stuff. And then I stopped and had a think and realized that, one, I don't really have time to knit a ton of different projects. Two, I don't have a ton of storage for a ton of new yarn. And three, having too much yarn stresses me out. So I massively scaled back my plans, and I'm really only planning to get just a little bit of yarn. One of the things I'm very excited about is Holly of the Mystery Mouse Knitting Podcast and the Mystery Mouse Yarn Co. She mentioned in her most recent podcast episode that she is planning to do a sale around this time, and I am so excited. I don't know, I've never had a yarn dyer that I've been, how would you say it? How would I describe it? So in love with them as a person, in love with their style, in love with their yarn colors, that I've wanted to buy tons and tons of yarn from them until Holly came along, and I look up to her so much. She's kind of who I aspire to be, you know, stay-at-home mom, 5 children. She's super crafty and creative, and I love supporting her, and buying her yarn makes me so happy. I still haven't figured out what to do with my red wall mini skeins, but they're just sitting up there on my desk, and I look at them and I love them. And I love the way that she goes about like her design or her colorway inspiration. So I probably shouldn't tell all of you because now you might go and buy all of her yarn, but you should go and buy all of her yarn because it's amazing. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye out and try and buy some of her yarn. And then we have a local yarn shop that's about 15 minutes away. I didn't know about it until maybe 6 months ago, and I was searching yarn shops and it popped up, and it's been here for years and years and years, so I don't know why I'd never seen it before. But I've put off going for a couple of reasons. One, buying yarn from small yarn shops can be much more expensive, and I have a limited yarn budget. And two, it's a new thing. It's a new place, and I always feel so nervous about going to new places like this, especially when it's a small business, because you can't hide among the crowds, so to speak. And so I was telling my husband that this local yarn shop is planning to do some Small Business Saturday sales, and so he's going to go with me. We're going to go on Saturday after Thanksgiving, and I'm going to go and look at some yarn, and he's going to be my support person. to get over that hump of being scared of new places and new things. So I'm really excited about that. They have some West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply in there. I think they have there's this Christmas colorway called Silent Light, and I would love to get that and make myself a pair of socks. And then they also have opal mini skeins, which I didn't know were a thing until I was watching Anna of the Anna Knitter Podcast, and she has opal mini skeins that she sells in her store, which I would love to buy, but unfortunately shipping from Germany is ridiculously expensive right now. It would basically be the same price as buying the yarn to pay for the shipping, so I can't really afford that. But I found out that this local yarn shop has opal mini skeins, so inspired by Anna Knitter, I am hoping to try and get some of the opal mini skeins, which I'm just so excited about. And then maybe one or two other things. But the more I thought about it, the more that I realized that I didn't really want to buy a ton of yarn. I don't have a huge amount of storage, and I don't love having a huge stash of craft supplies. At one time I did, and I just wanted to have all of the things, and then as I've gotten older, it just starts to stress me out, and I get really overwhelmed by the amount of stuff, and then I start thinking about all of the things that I need to or can make from them, and it just gets to be too much. So I encourage you to think about it a little bit more, what Black Friday or sale time shopping you want to do. I just encourage you to think about it. Yeah, so little tiny book section here. I'm trying to hurry up. Like I said, every time I just start talking and these get longer and longer, but I'm also losing my light, so I need to hurry up. I just wanted to mention, I have recently been reading rereading the Patricia Wentworth's Miss Silver series, and if you are a fan of Agatha Christie, Golden Age murder mysteries, vintage books that are set in like the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, that time period, I highly recommend checking out Patricia Wentworth's books, especially the Miss Silver series. I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I can't remember. I read all 32, 33 books in the Miss Silver series in the space of about 2 months when, at the beginning of this year, so in January and February of this year, when I was morning sick, I voraciously read all of those books. And it only took me that long because I had to wait for some of the books to come in on hold because somebody else was reading them, and I was reading them all through my library. And so I had to wait for them to be available. That's the only reason it took so long. I love Patricia Wentworth's writing so much. And Miss Silver is such a fun character. She's very classy and elegant, and she has very strong morals, and she is just so dignified and intelligent, and she knits all the time. She's constantly knitting, and it talks about how she knits continental style, and she holds it low in her lap and she doesn't have to look at it, and she'll be knitting cardigans or vests or stockings for her niece's boys, and she's just such a fun character. And the murder mysteries are all really good, and the characters are all excellent, and I love it because every single one of them, there's some sort of very simple romance, and it's so heartwarming and wholesome, and I love them. So I highly recommend you check them out. I will put in the description box down below a list of 3 or 4 of my favorite Miss Silver ones in case you're interested. I highly recommend you check it out. And then the other book that I read, I finished it yesterday, was Miss Bunkle's book by D.E. Stevenson. And I have been meaning to read this book for absolutely forever. But again, with new things, new books, things like that, it takes me a really long time to be okay to dive into it. It's just one of the quirks of my personality. I get very nervous about new things. That's why I love rereading or rewatching things. It's kind of silly, but it's something that I have learned to just embrace about my personality. Or I'm learning to embrace it. And so I finally read Miss Bunkle's book. Yeah, and I finished it yesterday. And it is So good. I've read a couple of books by D.E. Stevenson, and it's another one of those vintage books, and they're really wholesome. They have really good stories. The writing is excellent. I like the fact that they're not smutty, they're not stupid, they're not crazy politically correct. They're just simple, cozy, wholesome, lovely stories that are not stressful, they're not super drama-y, they're just lovely. And I appreciate that so much. It's something that I can't really find in modern day books, and that's why I love older and vintage books so much. But I highly recommend you check that book out. It's about Miss Bunkle, who lives in this small English village, and she decides to write a book, and it's based upon the village that she's living in and the people that she's living with that are in this little village. And so her book gets published, and Miss Bunkle does not, I guess you could say, pull any punches. She writes people as she sees them, and some of these people are not the nicest people, and she just writes them very true to life. She changed all the names, and she changes the name of the village, but all of the people in the village start recognizing themselves in the characters in this book, and many of them get very insulted because, you know, their flaws are kind of put right into their faces, and so they get very upset, and they're trying to figure out who wrote this book, because obviously Miss Bunkle did it under a pseudonym. And it's really charming and fun, and I highly recommend it. So, that's all of that stuff that I have to talk about. I'm going to just do a little bit of a life update, and we're going to try and wrap things up before I completely lose my light. Okay, so, life has been very good recently. It's been busy, a little bit challenging at times. Baby Tam is doing very well. For those of you that haven't watched some of my previous episodes, he was born very small. He was 5 pounds, 12 ounces, tiny little baby. Perfectly healthy, perfectly normal. He was hardly early. He was only 3 days early. And he was absolutely fine, just very small. And so for the first couple of months, I was having to feed him. Well, for the first month, I was basically having to feed him every 2 hours. And then next month, it was kind of up to about every 3 hours. And for the first couple of months, he didn't want to be held by anybody except for me. He would immediately start screaming, even if my husband took him. He wanted to be with me at all times. So that was a little exhausting, but he has been doing so much better here recently. He's let other people hold him for long periods of time. He's gotten much better about letting my husband hold him. Unless he's like sleepy or hungry or whatever, he's getting so much better about letting other people hold him, which is really nice because it means that I get to have a little bit of a break. But he is gaining weight. He is getting big and healthy, or he's always been healthy, but he's getting bigger, and he's just doing so well, which is so relieving, because especially for the first, honestly, until about like 2 weeks ago or so, he's had a lot of problems with throwing up all the time, and like a lot, not just a little bit of spit up that babies always have, but just throwing up a lot. And so it was a little bit worrying at times that was he even getting any food in him. But he's doing fantastic, getting big and healthy and strong, and doing so well, which is really amazing. And I am so grateful. So he's been doing really well. We've been doing really well. Hi, did you wake up? Hi, Pumpkin. Yeah. As I mentioned, Micah's birthday is on Thanksgiving. We had a little bit of an early family celebration this past weekend, just to kind of celebrate his birthday, but not do it in combination with all of the Thanksgiving stuff that's going on. You can see his little hand. He just woke up. So his birthday's coming up. I've gotten him a few presents, and I'm looking forward to celebrating that with him. And then we have, Friday we're planning to go and get our Christmas tree. It was growing up for me, my family always had real Christmas trees, and so it's something that I want to continue the tradition for our family. And so on Friday we're going to a Christmas tree farm and we're going to get a Christmas tree, and then on Saturday, like I mentioned, we're going to the yarn shop, which is really exciting, and I'm so looking forward to it, and I'm so happy that Micah is going to go with me, and it's going to be a really fun little excursion. Hi Pumpkin, you want to get up? So that's coming, and then it'll be December really quickly, and then all the Christmas festivities are gonna start kicking in, the celebrating all the different Christmassy things. And I'm thinking about maybe doing some variation of Vlogmas. I won't be able to do it every single day, just with baby, my schedule, you know. But I'm hoping to do some type of something for Vlogmas, either like a weekly one or maybe a few times a week release a vlog. But I'm really excited. I'm really hoping that Gaina of Tales from Cuckoo Land does Vlogmas. I've missed her. She usually does Vlogtober, but she didn't do it this year because she was still kind of recovering from COVID, and he just spit up, so hold on. So I really hope that she's able to do Vlogmas. I love her vlogs. But yeah, so that's coming, and then December is also my birthday month. I am a bona fide Christmas baby. I was born 2 days before Christmas, which is why my middle name is Noel. I am very much a Christmas baby. So it's Christmas month, and then it's also, I have 2 other siblings that were born in December, so birthday month for them, and then birthday month for me, and then one of my husband's siblings was born in December. He was born the day after Christmas, so all of the birthdays, all the Christmas stuff. And I'm gonna really, really try to, this year, I'm not making really anything for Christmas other than maybe some stuff for my husband. I'm gonna really try and focus on just enjoying the season. I have some Christmas ornaments that I want to make. I'm thinking about making another video about that, where I just share some of the Christmas ornaments that I would like to make. Sewing, and then also knitting and crocheted, or knit and crocheted Christmas ornaments. Got it on my sleeve. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that, trying to just enjoy this time of year. The last few years I've gotten very overwhelmed and stressed out with all the stuff going on, and it's something that I want to try and be better about, just enjoying the season and embracing it and not getting too caught up in all the stuff. Oh, and then the last thing that I wanted to mention really quickly was a couple things that I'm watching and then what I'm planning to watch. So I have been watching the Sherlock Hound series. Holly of the Mystery Mouse Knitting Podcast mentioned it in her most recent podcast episode, and I had never heard of this before. I found it. It's all on YouTube. It's a animated series based off of Sherlock Holmes, who is one of my all-time favorite literary characters. I absolutely love his character. I have read the books many times, and Holly mentioned that there's an anime series called Sherlock Hound, where it's basically they're all dogs. And it is so much fun. I absolutely love it. I've been watching it every minute I get, so I am way behind on all of my regular knitting podcasts and YouTube subscriptions because I've just been watching Sherlock Hound. I'm gonna link it down below. I highly recommend you check it out. It's so fun. It's cozy and wholesome and really cute, and I love it. The theme song gets stuck in my head like nobody's business. Yeah, so I've been really enjoying that. And then the other thing that I'm planning to watch soon is the All Creatures Great Small series that is, it's the newer series. There was an old series that was done and there's a newer series. I think my mom said that the 3rd season is about to come out this year or something. I'm not sure. My mom says that it is amazing and that she absolutely loves it. We tend to kind of recommend things to each other, whether that's books or TV series, because we like a lot of the same things, and she highly recommended it. So I'm going to be trying to get that and watch that here soon. Are you throwing up more? Anyway, my battery light is flashing, so I've got to go. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope that you have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you celebrate it, and I will see you very soon on the next one. Bye!